the other day, I don't know exactly which other one it was. I just know it was a day other than this one. I did a haul video showing some stuff that I bought from American Science and Surplus. One of the things I bought was a package of these spray top things. I bought these to go with these bottles to make my own, inks, spray paints, or whatever. And as we all know, nozzle clogging, it just comes with that. Whether you make your own, whether you buy them commercially, you're almost always going to have to, at one time or another, face the issue of a clogged spray nozzle, and what do you do about that? Okay, I have taken apart one of these spray nozzles before, totally disassembled it, and I cleaned it with a solvent and a teeny needle, and I put it back together, and when I did, it worked perfectly. However, I will never ever do that again because it was a tedious pain in the behind. And it doesn't always work. Some of them, I clear every passage I can find and they still don't work, and I don't know what's up with that. And it really irritated me, so I vowed to never ever do that again. I would just buy a new spray bottle. Well, then I found just the nozzles on Surplus, so I thought, well, that's an easy solution. You just buy one of these to replace your other one when it gets clogged, right? Simple. So now I have a bunch of these great bottles, which, by the way, they're out of at the moment, or they were last time I looked a couple days ago, but they're something that they get in every now and then, so just keep an eye out for them. They'll come back. So I have my bottles, which come with the little spray nozzles, and then I have a supply of replacement nozzles, which I think were maybe 30 cents each is what it came out to. I don't mind throwing that in the trash when it gets clogged to avoid having to try to clean one of these out or just not being able to use your spray. How many of us have done the... Oh, come on. You have, haven't you? You know you have. We all end up doing this. Well, I don't need to buy a special spray ink or paint to be able to do this. I'm going to pay for this commercially, by gosh, it better spray. So, I'm all set as far as my homemade stuff goes. I'm also all set as far as any commercially bought sprays such as Heidi Swap. These I don't buy very often, so I don't know if these spray caps will fit, all the other brands, but I have Heidi Swap here, and it does fit Heidi Swap. Okay. I also have Lindy's Stamp Gang. It does not fit Lindy's Stamp Gang. I don't have any Delusion spray, so I can't tell you if it will fit Delusion spray. So how would you know which bottles your tops are going to fit, right? This was my question. This was the burning question I had on that other day, and I had to have it answered because unanswered questions are not acceptable to me, really. So I spent all day researching how you match up caps to bottle tops, and it was just an awful nightmare of an experience. It was confusing, it was misleading, and I thought, this is ridiculous, and I think I'm going to do a video so that if anyone else out there is crazy enough to think it's important to know how to match up a spray nozzle with a bottle, then maybe this will be helpful for you too when your meds are off. And this also, I was curious because Surplus, if I remember right, they had these in a couple of different sizes, and one of them had like really long tubes. That's not a big deal, you can snip them off, but it's this, how big around is it supposed to be? And I know there's more to it than just how big around the bottle is, because there's threads, and bottles are threaded differently, and it has to be able to screw in right? Okay, how do we figure this out? According to Google, and I looked at 3 or 4 different sites on how this is done, how to pick the right cap, whether it's a spray cap, any kind of screw top cap for your screw top bottle. How do you do that? Let me tell you. I had to take notes because it was awful. All of the sites I looked at started out the same way. You need to take 5 measurements. They go into great detail explaining to you how exactly to take these 5 measurements. Well, I got out my ruler, which I don't have in front of me, and quickly decided that wasn't going to work. I can use my ruler to measure across this way, you know, I can get at least a ballpark number. But I also have to be able to measure from the outside of the threads that way, you know. So the top of the bottle, here's the edge of the bottle, but then the threads come out some, and I have to have that measurement. I can't do that with my ruler. I can't, you know, eyeball that. So I remembered these measuring tools that we have in the garage that we don't ever use. You will need calipers to be able to get these measurements for your bottle top, or at least according to all the websites, you're going to need calipers. If you don't have calipers, it just kind of sucks to be you, and I suggest that you just give up all hope of ever being able to determine the right size screw top for your screw top bottle. You know, it diminishes the quality of your life. I understand this, but I'm just saying, it's that or buy calipers. So, before you run out and buy calipers, let me finish. I went out to the garage. I found 3 wooden boxes. I opened the first one. It had this in it. I don't know what that is. It had this in it, which looks like some kind of measurement tool, but I just didn't see how it was going to help me. And it had this in it, which to me looked like the tool that I needed. It also has this little electronic display and an extremely dead battery. This was of no use to me at all. The second box I opened. This had a much larger, fancier looking tool. It also had a dead battery, which was of no use to me at all. I wasn't really sure how the tool worked, but it had a display. I felt that I was probably going to need that display, so I chunked it. The third box I opened, I felt like Goldilocks. This one was just right. This one was a nice set of calipers. It had no electronic display. It was all, you know, manual, so there was no chance I'd have a dead battery. I did not know what this meant or how this thing worked, but I took it in the house and thought, all right, I'll figure it out. I still don't know what this dial is right here, but I've determined it's irrelevant to your bottle top measuring needs, so don't worry about that if you happen to have calipers in your garage. Who does? I don't know. I don't know why we do. So, the website said the abbreviations or the initials for these measurements that you need to take are T-E-I-S-H. T is the OD of the threads. I'll explain that. E is the OD of the neck. I is the ID of the neck. S is the top edge of the bottle to the top edge of the first thread. H is the height from the top of the bottle to either the shoulder or the neck bead. Perfect sense, right? Easy breezy. Okay. OD, and these were easy for me because my dad owned litho companies and things were measured in OD and ID, so I'm familiar with that. OD is the outside diameter, ID is the inside diameter. Outside diameter, you would measure from here to here. That's the outside diameter. Inside diameter, you would measure from here to here. Makes sense, right? Thread OD, that's T, the first measurement. What do the T, E, I, S, and H stand for? I have no idea. None of the websites explained it. And they're not abbreviations for something that has to do with the measurement. The H is for height. It's about the only one that makes sense. The T is for the thread OD. That one could possibly make sense. The E, the I, and the S, no sense whatsoever. I think they just randomly picked letters and assigned one. So I went about measuring, opened my little calipers, which you... This is awkward. You do this little thing like this, and it makes them open, and you do like this, and it makes them close. And I opened it, and then the little dial thing spins. I don't know why, but it does. I want to measure, the first measurement is the outside of the threads. So I had to make sure, you know, it has to be exactly across the middle, which is hard to do when you're just eyeballing it like this. So I fiddled with it until I got my measurement that was exactly across the middle, touching the outside of the threads. That measurement was 8. Right here it has little numbers and it says 8. I knew from my order from Cyplus that the measurement of my bottle caps was 20-/410. I expected one of the measurements I took to be 20 and one to be 410. They're not. So this was 8. I went about my other measurements before I finally realized that my calipers, which are probably vintage, I don't know, are standard. I need metric because these are measured in millimeters. So this is actually 0.8 inches, which equals 20 millimeters. Hallelujah! I got one of the measurements. The outside diameter, the OD, of the threads around the top of the bottle is 20. That's the first number in my 2410 cap measurement. E is the neck OD. To measure the neck OD, you take your handy dandy calipers and you squeeze at the very top of the neck. So not on the threads, because we already measured that. So you get that measurement. Mine is 0.7 of an inch. And then you convert it to metric and you get whatever millimeter that is. It's irrelevant. I'm just telling you what I went through. And then these websites are very helpful. They tell you that if you take the T measurement, the thread OD, and you subtract the E measurement, which is the neck OD, that will give you the depth of each individual thread. I did the math and I wrote it down because I thought that was important. It's not. Completely irrelevant to what we're trying to do. But this is what the sites told me to do, so I did it. Next measurement, the neck ID. That's that inside diameter. You know, OD is outside edge to outside edge. ID is inside edge to inside edge. So I squished my little calipers together and I did this and went, well, crap, that's not going to work. Didn't take me too long to figure out that you use this little end and you go like this, and then they come apart, and make sure they're in the middle and tight, and then that will measure your inside diameter. My measurement was 6.6 inches, 6/10 of an inch, I guess. I wrote that irrelevant measurement down. Now, the next measurement they have you do is S. That is the top edge of the bottle to the top edge of the top thread. So, you know, threads spiral around. They start, there's a point that start out at the top, and then they go around and they get lower as they go. Right? That's a thread. So, the top edge of the top thread, I find where it starts. I measure there to the top edge of the bottle, and it's somewhere between the 0 and the 1 on my standard measurement calipers. Okay, the website said when determining this S measurement that it is the key factor that determines orientation of the closure to bottle and amount of thread engagement between the bottle and cap. Let me repeat. That S measurement, that T-tiny measurement I just took, is the key factor that determines orientation of the closure to bottle and the amount of thread engagement between the bottle and cap. I ran that through Google Translate twice, and I still didn't understand what it was trying to tell me. They went through the trouble to explain it, so I felt like it could have been important. I decided to toss it out with the measurement, whatever. So the final measurement is the H. That is the height from the top of the bottle to either the shoulder or the neck bead. Not all bottles have a neck bead, some just have a shoulder. This is the little thread at the top, and it's just the thread. It goes down, there's nothing between the threads and the shoulder of the bottle. This one right here, you have the threads around the top, but then right here above the shoulder is this little lip, right there, that little ledge. That's the little, what they call it, neck bead. So if your bottle has a neck bead, that's the measurement you want. If it doesn't have a neck bead, then just go all the way to the shoulder. So I took my measurement from the top of the bottle to the top of the neck bead, which was 4/10 of an inch. I converted it, and then I had my list of numbers, and then I very excitedly looked for the formula that I was going to need to determine how to get that 410. I had my 20, you know, I got that number, so I figured that's what I need, but I need that 410. Where's 410? Started researching more for this stupid 410 number that nothing was matching up to. Found a tiny little blurb at the bottom of the main website that I was using to figure all of this out, which, by the way, I'll put a link to them. It is SKS Bottle and Packaging. Tiny little blurb at the bottom of the page on SKS Bottle and Packaging says how to measure a neck finish. To find a cap's diameter, measure from one side of the inner wall to the opposite side. Calculate a bottle's neck finish by measuring the diameter of the outermost threads. The resulting millimeter measurement will be the T dimension. Did you hear that first part? To find a cap's diameter, measure from one side of the inner wall to the opposite side. Okay, that's completely irrelevant. All we need is that second sentence, which says, calculate a bottle's neck finish by measuring the diameter of the outermost threads. That resulting millimeter measurement is the T dimension. That's all you need. Why did they even put that first sentence in there? And then I realized that first sentence is indicative of everything on their website. All of those measurements I took were irrelevant. All I needed was the T, the first one. The outermost measurement from the threads, thread to thread across here, T. Whatever that T stands for, no one knows. That's all I need. Because the second part of the little blurb says, then see how many times the threads pass one another to determine the finish. Threads pass one another. Okay, no one had ever mentioned threads passing one another, and I knew this had to come in play somehow because it's different on every bottle. You know, there's a difference. So, my thread starts here. It goes around one complete time, and then it goes around, it stops right there. So it's half a complete time. It goes around 1.5 times. What does that mean? There's a chart that shows, let me find a better one. These are different, the most common thread configurations for standard plastic and glass bottles. You find your thread configuration, which are explained in detail here, and that gives you your second number. So my threads went around 1.5 times. One thread is a 400, 1.5 is a 410. My bottle was 2410. 20 was my T measurement. 410 was my threads going around 1.5 times. I could have saved myself a lot of trouble had that been at the very top of the web page instead of all this crap about the TEI, S and H, and how to measure each one and what each one means. This did not help me in my quest to find out how to buy the right size replacement cap for my Lindy Stamp Gang spray. That's all I wanted. So, you know, I was grateful for the help I found at SKS Bottle and Packaging, but then I was a little torqued at them for making me go through this and this when all I needed was this. So I went on the SKS website where I was, and I did the right-click thing to save. I really wanted just the graphics, to save the little illustrations so I could print them out and, you know, show you that these references are available. So I did the right-click thing, no go. Right-click prohibited, you know, it's that thing where you can't right-click on anything on the website. So I started looking around on the internet for maybe some kind of another website that had a comparable chart. I was especially interested in this little chart that I could print out, and I started looking, and lo and behold, I found this exact same chart, exact same text, this exact same page on the website of, throwing you under the bus, I'm sorry, Pipeline Packaging. It was on their SlideShare account thing. So basically, Pipeline Packaging evidently just took a screenshot and saved it and then published it on their own little SlideShare like this without giving any credit whatsoever to SKS Bottle and Packaging. But you know, why this would be protected, I don't even know. So, yeah, I printed them out. No, I don't feel guilty. I was so irritated at having to go, you know, halfway around the world just to get to the point on the SKS Bottle and Packaging website that I had no problem printing this out. So yeah, that is all you need. In a nutshell, if you're trying to figure out how to measure to see what size cap you need for your bottle, ignore everything that the bottle and packaging websites tell you, because they will lead you on a journey through Narnia and halfway back before finally telling you, oh, you don't really need all that stuff, you just need this one little thing and then this chart. Okay, there's one problem with this process. This is the industry standard for screw top caps. The problem is bottle manufacturers don't really pay attention to that industry standard and will sometimes just do what they want. So even going through all of this trouble to find out what size cap you need for your bottle, that still may be of absolutely no use to you. In fact, the website says you're better off buying your caps and bottles from the same manufacturer to ensure that they'll fit. The end.